Hey, Chase trained him before I did, but Kirk, he's a 15. I think he might be turning 16 pretty soon, but he is a monster. I mean, an absolute monster. Um, I think he doubled 405 or tripled 405 not too long ago.
On a
Um,
squat?
yeah, yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
he's he's pretty legit. Of course, his coaches are making him progressively weaker though. Like,
Yep.
yeah,
His football
he came
coaches.
in and yeah, his high school coaches. That's what they're good at, making people weak. But he was struggling with 390 just because he's got knee tendonitis now because they are overworking him. His chest is all beat up because they're making him clean way more weight than he needs to be cleaning. He can't do it effectively. So
Is there some like really poor school in Wichita Falls that doesn't have a strength coach that could just send their entire football team to Wichita Falls Athletic Club and just like turn them into a
No,
bunch of monsters?
what it
Chase
is
can
like
Chase can explain this.
what I think it is that like I think people back in the day, like Rip kind of came to him and be like, look, y'all can work out here. Like I'll set up this program, so that way we can get teams in here, and Wichita Falls can be this powerhouse. Doesn't matter what school it is, it's just freakishly good athletes. And then that whole entire dogma of high school coaches being like, well, fuck you, you don't,
Mhm.
you've never been a coach before, you don't have a football team, so why am I going to listen to you?
Mhm.
And then ever since then, it's just been, like for me, it was just random luck. I got in there, and then a few other athletes, it's just been kind of random too. Or like the MSU program that we had a while back, it drew some people in. But high school kids, like I've seen a shit ton from my years of being there. They come in, they usually leave. Like I stuck around. Kirk is going to be sticking around. Is Isaac still going?
Yeah, Isaac's in.
Yep,
Yeah.
Isaac. So now we're seeing a little bit more and more people kind of shy away from all this high school bullshit because it's just you've heard all the crazy stories too over the years of like, kids getting hurt because of the negligence that's happening in weight rooms and stuff like that. So now they're
Mhm.
seeking more private training and stuff like that. And I mean, luckily, kids around in Wichita Falls have the biggest diamond in the rough with WFAC.
Yeah, yeah. It's very frustrating, coaching these kids because you spend all summer and they are just progressively getting stronger. Every time they get in there, every week they're just stronger, 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 stronger. And as soon as sports start, and there's going to be a little bit of a downslope when sports start because training changes, right? You've trained all summer for the sport. Now it's time to do that sport. So weightlifting takes a kind of a back step. However, whenever high school coaches get involved, there's that big ego of, well, I'm the high school coach. I know what I'm doing. I watched these college kids do, a 5x10 front squat. So that's what we're doing now with zero context. So now every single week it's a 5x10 front squat. And all these kids just progressively start getting weaker as these coaches get a hold of them, and it's super frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, I've watched a couple of those football documentaries, those college documentaries they have on Netflix where they follow the team and the coach around. And they get all these, like, what do they call them? The linesmen, those big dudes who kind of,
Yeah.
they're like 350 pounds. And they got these dudes like doing stair runs and running laps. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? These guys,
No,
they do 2
they need to
seconds
be
worth of
focused.
work and then they do the next
Yeah.
set. It's just
Yeah, they're genetic freaks. They're monsters. I mean, they're just massive guys. They need to be thinking, well, let's get your squat up as high as humanly possible, so whenever you hit someone, you actually have all this strength behind it. They don't think this way, and they have the cream of the crop to get these kids these men as strong as possible, and they just don't do it. Every now and then there might be a strength conditioning coach that might have his shit together, but it's so few and far between. It's frustrating. It really is.
I think one of the big problems is that, I mean, I was just coming out of this, and I had a lot of friends who were like graduates, assistants, and actually working in the S&C departments for University of Pittsburgh, D1 school, and it's almost like the staff who they're working with, they're still being trained so that they can go up and proliferate their career in college S&C. They're almost like really excited to do their job in a way that's detrimental, where they're like, well, this week with our athletes, we're going to focus on power and speed development. And this week we're going to focus on hypertrophy. And then the next week we're going to taper into a strength block. And then they're almost like, oh, look at all these things that I have either just learned in my curriculum or just from like perusing Instagram and we think this is where we should go on it. And then you'll see ripples of it, with like even at the not sport level, where people are like, oh, you know what, I think I'm going to take some time to do like a hypertrophy block. And you're like, oh, how long have you been training for? And they're like, oh, about 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And it's like that same thing where they will get very overexcited by how complex things can eventually get, where it's like, hey, if you're working with an Olympic athlete and you have time to periodize out 2.5 years, maybe you can do that. But with these kids, it's actually a lot simpler than people think it is.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the big thing, keep it simple, and that's the thing. That's the thing that Starting Strength is really good at. It's a simple program. It's boring, but it fucking works. And then you have all these strength and conditioning coaches that, went through all this school to learn everything. And then they come out and they're like, well, now I have to justify my job. And if, the head coach comes in and he sees the guys doing the exact same thing they were doing 3 weeks ago, he's going to be like, what are you doing? Why aren't they on a BOSU ball doing some, agility work or whatever? Whatever's sexy and in fashion at the time. Instead of doing what works, it's let's justify my job and put all this knowledge that I've gained and do that instead. I don't know. It's I have progressively been more and more frustrated with dealing with specifically high school coaches with my kids because
it's a tragedy.
Yeah, it is, because I'm so used to seeing them get really strong during the summer, and then I see them less and less and less when sports start, and then when they come in, it's just like we're starting from square one again. Those coaches actively have tried to make those kids as weak as possible.
Chase, how was your experience with your coaches?
Man, so I went to a small high school just outside of Wichita Falls, so where I was the strongest kid already going in there, and so they kind of left me alone. Like, I would kind of bullshit through their workouts that they had in their off-season program, which I learned from, the coaches up in Wichita Falls Athletic Club is just a sandbag, right? So they make you max out before the off-season program starts. So what you do is, I was probably squatting 405 at the time, so I'm literally gonna sandbag it to like 315, and just make it grindy as fuck, make your form look terrible. So that way it knows, like, the coaches seem to see that, okay, well, this kid's actually struggling and he's trying, because the main thing that they're looking for is just effort, and it's a good thing to kind of develop that through kids and stuff like that, because this is a camaraderie, this is team sports and stuff. But the way they do it is fucking totally wrong, because they don't have the science and the knowledge that we do about programming and lifting. So what I had to do was literally just pretend that I was way weaker than what I actually was, and then show out on the field or on the court, whatever sport I was doing. And then they realized, okay, well, he's here to play. He's actually a team member and stuff like that, instead of some just average kid and stuff like that.